I'm back.
It's time.
You go in pieces, asshole.
Get away from her, you bitch!
Your move, creep.
Hello, my name is Reid, and this is Your Move Creep, podcast celebrating action cinema from 1980 to the year 2000. From the east to the west, from the worst to the best. May has come around once again, and that can only mean one thing. It's time for the annual Forbidden Walls Film Festival, the amazing yearly genre film festival in Bristol from May 28th to June 1st, 2025. Fans of the show will know I've travelled down the last 2 years, and this year I'll be making the pilgrimage again. Now, over the last couple of years, I've covered my thoughts after I returned from Bristol and Forbidden Walls, and of course, there will also be a podcast covering that after I return, plus a little vlog I'm going to do when I'm down there. But this time, let's chat a little bit about the lineup to see what you can expect from Forbidden Walls if you get a ticket and you come along, and what you can look forward to. So let's get into it, creeps. So this year's fest has the theme of Terrors of the Deep, which is very apt for a film festival based in an aquarium. The festival also honours the work of accomplished film producer Gail Ann Hurd, known for working on Terminator and Terminator 2, Aliens, Dante's Peak and Alien Nation. The fest boasts quite a few of her films in the lineup, but we'll get to them in due time. First up to launch the festival on Wednesday the 28th, we have the debut of award-winning filmmaker Arthur Cotty's film The Big Picture, which takes a look behind the very IMAX cinema in the Bristol Aquarium which hosts this year's festival. The film explores how the IMAX was for a long time deserted until the efforts of Bristol's film community brought it back from the ashes and gave it a new lease of life via Bristol Megascreen. It will be very cool to watch that and find out a little bit of the history of the IMAX and how it came back to life, essentially. On Thursday, we have an evening with Gail Ann Hurd, which sees Gail in conversation with Helen O'Hara, who wrote the book Women vs. Hollywood, The Fall and Rise of Women in Film. Gail will discuss the life behind the camera, which will be followed by the classic Aliens. So, Friday, we begin the day with Waterworld, the Ulysses cut, which has been restored by the good folks over at Arrow Video. As per this fest, this will be preceded by an intro on the making of the film by superfan Simon Brew. I don't think I've actually seen Waterworld since it came out back in the 90s, so how do you guys feel about that movie? Let me know in the comments. Then Gail is back to intro Battle Beyond the Stars, the Magnificent Seven in Space. That's a who's who of actors such as Richard Thomas from the Waltons / The Good It, George Pepper from the A-Team, Hannibal, John Saxon from Nightmare on Elm Street and Enter the Dragon, amongst many more. It also has a spaceship with boobs, so there's that. And you also get to see Sybil Danning in 4K, so look out for that one. We move on to some French fancy as we get City of Lost Children, which will be a first watch for me. But I do love some kind of French weirdness, so I'll be quite intrigued to watch that. And we round off Friday with Blood Tide, a James L. Jones starring horror, where James and Karate Kid's Martin Cove awaken an ancient sea monster while hunting for treasure. You can't tell me that doesn't sound fun as hell. That's totally up my street. So let's move on to Saturday. Kicking things off, we have the always fun Genre Filmmakers of the Future Short Showcase. This is always a highlight of this festival for me, and I'm quite excited to see what great shorts we get treated to this year. I'm especially excited for Jodie Duffield's The Last Dumpling, which I believe qualified for a BAFTA. She seems like someone to watch as far as UK action movies are concerned. She's very kind of plugged in kind of the action realm, so maybe we get her on the podcast for a little chat in the future. We follow that with a little bit more Gail as she returns to introduce one of my favourite genre movies, Tremors. So this was definitely a big part of why I had to make the journey again. I really love this movie, and getting to see it on the big screen in IMAX is going to be pretty insane. We then get Orca, the Richard Harris killer whale movie introduced by Rob Hill of Bad Movie Bible, which is a fantastic YouTube channel you should all check out if you love seeing how Hollywood influences not only just homegrown knockoffs of films like Die Hard or The Terminator, but also how these films get interpreted internationally in films like Red Wolf, which is kind of a Hong Kong version of Die Hard under siege on a boat, and Lady Terminator, which kind of apes like Robocop, Terminator, with a little bit of weird sort of Thai kind of horror in there as well. Definitely added a few of those films into Wheel of Cheddar from Rob's videos, so thanks for that. So to close Saturday, we have a film yet to be confirmed. So I think for everyone, we're going to keep this quiet to the day, I hope. Let's say we sit down in our seats and I guess the film just comes on. So now I theorise we can go one of two ways here. Either Larry gets an early Christmas present and it's Leviathan, the Peter Weller aliens underwater vehicle. Now they have said that it's not going to be that, but come on, it would be fun if it was. Or we get a wild Rennie Harling appearance and we're treated to Deep Blue Sea. What do you guys like? What do you guys think? Let me know. I think it might cry for Leviathan, but yeah, I bloody love Leviathan me, so fingers crossed for that one. Okay, it's time for Sunday, and we open the day with The Whale God, a Japanese kaiju take on Moby Dick, which I'm very interested in, with an introduction by Stephen Sloss, who has a BFI Classics coming out about Godzilla. So he'll be sharing his history of kaiju, so essential attendance for those who love a big boy destroying a city. We then take a trip back to my childhood as we get to see the very fun young Sherlock Holmes for the first time on IMAX, followed by a Q&A with friend and former guest of the show, Sarah from Popcorn Chat, as she sits down with some of the stars to chat about the making of the film. And that'll be followed up by a film I hadn't heard of before called Below, which is a World War II submarine ghost story with Jason Fleming from Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, recently in The Working Man with Jason Statham. We've got Bruce Greenwood from Fall the House of Usher. We've got Dexter Fletcher from Press Gang. Obviously, Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. He's obviously an accomplished director now, but obviously I love him because he's in Games Master. And do you remember when Games Master, when Jet from the Gladiators was on it? Oh, simple times, simple pleasures. Sorry. And Zach Galifianakis, a very, very early role for him, I think. So I'm looking forward to this one. Same director as Pitch Black, David Toy, so I think we're in good hands, I think. Finally, to close the festival, we have the very silly but very fun Alligator. The film that gave us stories of people flushing pets down the toilet, only for them to seek revenge as they grow up to enormous sizes or live in the sewers like a poo-stained Ninja Turtle. And I've no doubt this will be a crowd pleaser, and you need a kind of silly, funny, daft movie to close out the festival because it's, coming to the end and the last film, and you need to have something a bit bittersweet, but having something funny and daft and light-hearted is always good to kind of end it. So that was my little hype episode for Involves 2025. I'll be down there all weekend, so if you see me, please do come say hello and come chat, as I'll be doing some on-the-spot interviews. If anyone's up for that, so please look out for me and look for my posts on socials. You'll see me on my microphone kind of kicking about, so come chat, well, let's talk action together. So speaking of socials, you can find the show on Twitter, Instagram and Blue Sky now at Your MC Podcast. You can give the show a follow on YouTube at Your Move Creep Pod. You can even email the show at yourmovecreeppod@gmail.com, where you can send your questions and queries for the mailbag. Make sure you follow and subscribe on Spotify, Acast and iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts. And I'll see you once I return on the next episode of Your Move Creep. Bye-bye.
Your move, creep.